There are some huge mistakes that people are making when planning their estates, and they don't even know they're making them. Hey, everybody, Mike Ferrante here with LPT Realty and the Mike team. We are real estate agents serving greater Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, all the way down to Central Ohio. And I got to tell you, I am so concerned with this as I'm getting a little older, realizing that, we have to have a plan. And it's really the plan isn't for us, it's for the people we leave behind. And that's why I care about this so much. So I have a special guest that I want to introduce you to today. Bradley Green, elder law and estate planning lawyer, is taking time out of his busy day to educate us on a couple things. And stay tuned because we're going to talk about the free event we're having in March, the 26th at Solon Library, where Brad is going to come and give his knowledge out for free. Brad,
Mhm.
thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for asking me, Mike.
That's quite an introduction, huh?
Yes, it was. Perfect.
So, Brad, first, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been practicing law, and what you
Right.
specialize in.
Right. So I've been practicing law for 36 years, believe it or not, because I don't feel that old. The first 20 years, I did criminal defense. So I was a courtroom trial lawyer. And I switched practice areas 15 years ago to do elder law, estate planning, and probate work.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've helped me with my plan. And
Hmm.
one of the questions I'm asking myself is, great, we have wills, we have power of attorneys, which we'll talk about in a second. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, do I need a trust, for example? Is there a way to avoid probate altogether and make sure that
Hmm.
the people who survive me don't have these hassles? So
Right.
let's start, Brad. We talked about this a little bit. Why there's these failures in estate plans. Like, what are the biggest mistakes you see people making?
I've seen people do their own wills online, which is probably not such a good idea. It may be better than nothing, but honestly, it may be worse than nothing. So that's something that I would definitely steer clear of. Don't do it yourself. It's not that expensive to come and see an estate planning lawyer to get your estate done correctly.
So when someone does it incorrectly like that, does
Hmm.
their own or does an online version, like what
Yeah.
kinds of problems does that cause for the family?
Well, you may not have said who you want to manage the estate, the executor. You may not have said exactly who you want your beneficiaries to be. So that's something that we make sure is locked up and done correctly. I've seen wills that people did themselves that weren't executed properly. Maybe they didn't have two witnesses. I saw
Mhm.
one, it was the worst will I've ever seen in my life. He cut and pasted pages from several different sources. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't cohesive. And there's no way that probate court would have accepted that will. So this person went through all this trouble and really there was real estate involved. He had a house, he had a rental house that he thought he was doing the deeds on, and it was just a mess.
So you mentioned probate court. So I understand from being in real estate that when probate court gets involved, it can really gum up the works, that things can get tied up in probate court for a long
Yeah,
time. And it
yeah,
also costs the family a lot of money because they have to
that's
pay a
exactly right.
so can you explain that? Like, what is probate court?
Right.
Why do people have to go to probate court, and explain what it is?
Sure. So most people don't realize that it's the will that goes through probate court. And in a perfect world, you'll never have to open a probate estate. We've all heard the horror stories. Prince, I think, was probably the most recent one, died with millions and millions of dollars, and didn't have a will in place. So his estate had to go through probate. You have heirs that maybe you don't want to receive your assets, coming out of the woodwork, just to try to get your money. So probate can definitely be avoided, and should be. There are ways to do that that are very easy and inexpensive. Just changing your beneficiaries on your investments. No probate, the will never comes into play. So you don't want to have to open a probate estate if you can avoid it. A trust is one way to do that. There are other ways. There are options, and that's
Yeah,
really what
and
it's
we're
all
gonna
about.
And we're going to talk about this more in depth, obviously, on March 26th at 6:15 at Solon Library. Check below for the link to register for that event. And we're going to really dig deep in whatever we can do in about an hour. And then, of course, we'll be available to answer questions after. I can talk about real estate, but Bradley Green is the expert when it comes to the overall estate plan. Now, Brad, we talked for a minute and you said, hey, some people say, well, I really don't have much. Why do I even need to do anything? Will trust anything.
Yeah, you may not think you have much, but most people will have a bank account, they'll have a car, maybe they have a house. Those are assets, and you need to do planning with them to make sure that the people you want to get them do get them in a timely fashion. Probate can take months, years, cost thousands of dollars that can easily have been avoided.
Yeah. And then there's the risk of those people coming out of the woodwork, like you said, saying, well,
Hmm.
you know what? I deserve to have a piece of that.
Right,
And, you're powerless now. You're 6 foot under and, you
right.
don't have any say.
That's exactly right. It's not your problem anymore because you're gone, but you can create a huge mess for your loved ones, and it's not necessary.
Yeah. That's such good advice. Another question that I have rather selfishly, I've heard about trusts and I know about this much. And then,
Hmm.
I've always heard that, will versus trust, you only need a trust if you're incredibly wealthy, you have a huge estate. Is that true?
Necessarily, a trust isn't for everyone, but a trust does avoid probate. A trust is a good vehicle to manage your assets when you're not around any longer, and also for while you're still alive, for that matter. Say you have minor children. Minors can inherit. So if a loved one has minors who inherit their estate, there's going to have to be a probate estate opened, a guardianship opened for a
Mm.
minor. So a trust can avoid the guardianship over a minor's estate so that they can have a trustee to decide who gets what and when. So if a minor needs braces, they can just go to the trustee. Listen, I need braces, instead of having to go to the court to petition the court under a guardianship for any expense. So it's a
Got
good
it.
vehicle in that situation too.
But Brad, trusts and wills and estates, that's only for old people, right? If I'm in my 30s or 40s, I don't need any of that, right?
I just did a trust not 10 minutes ago for a young couple. They happen to both be lawyers, and they've got two very young girls, 1 and 3. And they realize, things happen. We're not necessarily all going to be around, forever. And it's the right thing to do to make sure that your kids are going to be taken care of if you're not around anymore. Uh, and whether they're minors, their children, or whether they're adults, you want to make sure that the people that you love inherit your estate when you don't need it anymore.
And that they're not burdened with unnecessary time and expense and
Right.
hassle of fighting that process of probate. So, Brad,
Exactly.
you said the words "still alive" earlier,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
we think of, okay, well, this all this is for when I'm gone, but you
Right.
also mentioned that when you're still alive, if you're not able to make decisions on your own, one of the big mistakes people make is not having a POA, power of attorney.
Right.
Can you
Right.
briefly explain what that is and why it's important?
Exactly right. Yeah. So the will does come into play after somebody's gone. Powers of attorney for both financial and healthcare are essential while you're still living. You have to have said who you want to be able to make those decisions for finances, for healthcare, if you can't make them any longer. So you got to have those documents in place also. I've seen people to the point where they no longer have capacity and can't execute legal documents any longer. And then you need a guardianship. And nobody wants the court involved in their business
Mm,
if it can be avoided. And
right,
powers of attorney can do that.
for sure. Now, so we have all these different documents. Surely I could just put this in Chat GPT and it could write it up for me, right?
Don't recommend it. No, don't.
I'm just kidding, of course, but these are serious matters, Brad, and I appreciate you.
Mhm.
This is just a taste, guys. So again, March 26th, 6:15 to 7:15. Show up a few minutes early, stay a few minutes after. Solon Library. I'll put the info below, and Brad is going to generously just give us information, answer our questions. And then, of course, we'll be there if you want to talk to both of us, me about real estate, Brad about estates and elder care planning type stuff. It's a conversation that really needs more than an hour, but we just wanted to take a few minutes and give you guys something to think about. If you have some basic questions, we'll be there. This is just a teaser. So, Brad, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, looking forward to the presentation with you in March, Mike.
Yep, it's going to be great. It's going to be free March 26th. We'll see everybody there. Thanks for being here.
Bye.